The spoon paused in midair, a drop of stew sliding back into the bowl as her words settled into the space between us. I looked up slowly, placing the spoon down with care, not because I was stunned, but because I'd already known. I'd known for weeks, months maybe. There's a particular quiet that comes into a home when love turns into a performance. Yours had gone silent long ago. Across the table, she sat perfectly still, waiting, expecting a reaction, a slap of outrage, maybe a crushed glass, a shouted insult, something that would let her feel like the brave one, the honest one. Instead, I reached for my napkin, wiped my hands deliberately, and said the only thing that needed saying. Understood. Her eyes blinked twice. She wasn't prepared for that. Not the calm, not the stillness. The show she'd rehearsed in her head for weeks had no audience now. No fight, no drama, just the sound of a man placing his utensils down for the last time in a marriage he'd already buried. I stood, pushed in my chair, and began clearing the dishes, the bowl, the wine glass she hadn't touched, the folded napkins, every movement quiet, efficient, my back to her. She watched me for a few moments longer, I think, but said nothing. You see, when a woman tells her husband she plans to sleep with someone else and says it like a gift, a privilege she's giving herself, you learn everything you need to know about how little you mean to her anymore, but by then, if you've paid attention, you've already seen it, in the way her phone never faced up, in the new underwear that wasn't for you, in the way she began smiling at texts that never came from your number. Every man over 50 knows this moment when it comes, when the woman you built a life with looks at you like a relic she's grown tired of dusting, and if you're wise, you don't beg, you don't roar, you just mark the moment quietly, like I did. If you're still watching at this point, take a second to like and subscribe. This one's not going where you think. That night, she changed clothes in the guest room, told me it was to give each other space. I nodded. At 7:46 p.m., I heard the garage door open. Her heels clicked out into the driveway. She paused, probably waiting for a light to come on. It didn't. I stayed at the sink, drying dishes. She had chosen her moment, bold and proud, chosen to announce it at the dinner table I built with my own hands. On the plates we picked together during our second year of marriage, but the moment she walked out, I felt nothing. No rage, no grief, just a door closing that didn't need reopening, and that unsettled her more than anything I could have said. The first backup was dated almost 11 months before she said the words. That's what my lawyer later pointed out, flipping the printed archive folder open with a quiet respect. A manila binder labeled Phase 1 in neat handwriting. She probably thought I'd been numb all that time, passive, frozen, but silence doesn't always mean surrender. Sometimes it's reconnaissance. The day I realized she'd changed her phone passcode, after years of using the same 4 digits, I didn't ask, I just watched. Then I bought an encrypted USB drive and started mirroring our shared cloud account each week. Every synced message, every travel itinerary, even the ones she thought she'd deleted. She started going on retreats, self-care weekends, business conferences that didn't list her name on any roster. She came back lighter each time, more amused, less present, and I took notes, dates, time ranges, expenses. I created a timeline. There was no confrontation, no snooping in drawers or sniffing collars, just a quiet, methodical reconstruction of a marriage she was unraveling in real time. When she began laughing at texts that came through late at night, I didn't look at her. I looked at our bank app. I noted the ATM withdrawals in neighborhoods we didn't frequent. I didn't call the numbers, just logged them, dates, amounts, coordinates. The ledger began to take shape. She moved in emotional chaos. I moved in digital layers. The first solo account I opened was under my mother's maiden name, a legal trust, shielded and clean, no joint access, no alerts. I rerouted a portion of my consulting income there, small enough not to trip questions, large enough to build leverage. Then came the title shifts. First the boat, then the car. Both technically ours, but the paperwork had always left room for quiet redirection. DMV appointments booked during her yoga retreats. Notarized transfers slid through during her sleep-in Sundays. I left every title in the drawer, marked Family Docs. She never checked. I wasn't hiding. I was preparing. She came home glowing one weekend from Denver, said the mountain air was healing. I nodded, made coffee. She smelled like eucalyptus and bourbon. I checked her luggage tags later. Phoenix, not Denver. I didn't say a word, but I pulled up the airport camera logs, captured the footage, time-stamped it, added it to the file. The quiet phase, as I called it, wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. A man can sense when he's being pushed off the stage of his own life. You can either cling to the curtain or you can start designing a new set. The night she missed our anniversary, claiming a client dinner, I had dinner alone at our local steakhouse, brought my binder, cross-checked account movements against the calendar, found a pattern. Same man, different hotels. I added his name to the file. Public record search, LinkedIn, spouse listed. I added her name too. It wasn't hard. When you stop reacting emotionally, the math becomes easy. She thought she was exploring freedom, but I wasn't standing still. I was documenting everything she danced past, quietly, patiently, one entry at a time. She left around 7:40, dressed in something new, something I hadn't seen before. Pale blue, open back, perfume I couldn't name, the kind you spritz when you want to be remembered. She didn't say goodbye, just walked past me in the hallway, heels tapping like punctuation marks. There was a trace of a smile on her face. I stayed seated in the den reading an article I wouldn't remember by morning. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up. Subject, Phase 2, attachments, 17 files, encrypted, time-stamped, compiled over 301 days. I hit send. The message went to 3 people, my attorney of record, my CPA, and, newest to the team, a private investigator named Marcus Jane, a former insurance fraud analyst, discreet, efficient, no drama. Each file was locked with 2-factor verification. Each had been reviewed twice. Audit trails, screen recordings, phone records obtained through mutual accounts, photo timestamps. Not just hers, Brent's too, his LinkedIn bio, employment records, wedding date. I even had the deed to the house he bought with his wife, the same house she'd laughed about once, saying, "I could never live with such awful paint colors." She thought it was flirtation. I recognized triangulation. At 8:17 p.m., she texted me, probably expecting to show it to him as proof of her boldness. Freedom never smelled so good. I didn't reply. I flagged the number she used, her alternate SIM, and updated the log. Some men react when they see a message like that, shatter something, show up at the hotel, plead, rage, embarrass themselves. I made tea and filed an addendum to the prenup folder, including the message with the exact GPS metadata from her device. She'd disabled location sharing with me months ago. Forgot that iCloud doesn't always listen. At 10:24, her name lit up on the security camera when she returned to grab an overnight bag. She didn't come inside, just opened the garage keypad, took what she needed, and left. The same house she used to call her sanctuary had become a pit stop on her way to elsewhere. The next morning, I deleted her profile from the home automation system. Quietly, no fanfare. She floated through that weekend like a woman reborn. Brunch at the pier, a rooftop pool with champagne glasses I saw reposted to a burner Instagram she thought I didn't know about. Hashtag, finally free. I went for a run. Not because I was angry, because the next step required a clear head. Sunday night came. No calls, no messages. She thought I was sulking, but I'd already gone dark. Intentionally. A man's silence isn't always defeat. Sometimes, it's just the part where the trap stops moving, because everything's already in place. She came through the door around 6:20 p.m., a tote bag slung over her shoulder, sunglasses still on despite the fading light. The sound of the lock clicking behind her seemed louder than usual. She kicked off her heels by the entryway, like always, and walked into a house that no longer belonged to the story she'd been writing in her head. The kitchen was clean, lights dim to their usual Sunday setting, a soft jazz playlist playing low, almost imperceptible. Everything felt normal, until she saw the folder, Manila, centered neatly on the island counter, her name written in blue ink across the top. She hesitated, fingers hovering above it like it might burn. Then she opened it. Inside, 3 documents. First, a cleanly drafted separation agreement, fully outlined, no ambiguity, each clause referencing precise state statutes. The tone was cold, efficient, civil. Second, a revised prenup outline, the one she hadn't seen before because it was post-dated with the writer we'd filed 2 years ago after her brief retreat to Miami. At the time, she thought it was a tax optimization strategy. I'd let her believe that. Third, a spreadsheet titled Asset Disbursement Scenarios, color-coded, categorized, final column marked Projected Outcomes, solo filing. I walked in just as she reached that last page. Her face dropped, not from fear, from realization, from the sensation of standing in a structure she didn't know had already been built beneath her. She turned to me, jaw tight, hands gripping the folder too hard. What the hell is this? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even set down the grocery bag I was holding. You wanted happiness, I said calmly. Here's mine. She scoffed, an instinct, not a thought. You're serious? I walked past her, opened the fridge, placed the almond milk on the top shelf, the same kind she always complained about when I bought it. Too watery, she'd say. She slammed the folder shut. You're punishing me? This is punishment? I finally looked at her, just long enough to let the silence weigh heavy. No, I said. This is precision. She started yelling then. Not words at first, just the sound of someone who expected a fire and got frost. She wanted a scene, something to retell later, something to make herself the brave one. Instead, I turned to the shelf by the coffee machine, picked up the mug she bought me 5 years ago in a gift shop in Asheville. White ceramic, black letters. I'm not arguing. I'm just explaining why I'm right. I held it up, just for a moment, then placed it gently back on the hook. Her voice caught in her throat. The man she left behind on Friday night was supposed to be scrambling, dazed, angry. The man she returned to had written a playbook and finished it before she even walked out the door. The folder stayed on the counter. She didn't touch her phone for the next hour. I didn't say anything else, and that, more than any fight, told her the rules had changed. Monday morning, 9:14 a.m., she was already at her laptop, hair wrapped in a towel, sipping overpriced herbal tea from a cup that read, "Do no harm, but take no shit." She was scrolling through spa packages like she was shopping for enlightenment. Weekend reset, the website said, salt baths, wine pairings, couples yoga, which she'd probably booked as a solo session. She clicked through the booking page, entered the Amex, same one she'd used for the Denver not Denver trip. Denied. She frowned, entered it again, more carefully this time, declined. She tried the Visa next, the joint one. I watched her do it once at the grocery store without thinking, habit maybe. This time her fingers were slower, more deliberate. Declined. She blinked, opened her bank app, froze. The checking account balance read 0.0 root, savings, access restricted. A red banner at the top flashed, account modification pending legal review. At 9:32, she called the bank. Her voice was firm at first, that old, "I'm a professional woman and you've made a mistake" tone she used with waiters and junior assistants. Then came the rep's pause, a soft clearing of the throat. "I'm sorry, ma'am. This account is now restricted to the primary owner. Legal documentation was received 2 weeks ago confirming a separation of authority." She asked what documentation. They cited the filing ID, notarized, logged, signed. She hung up without saying thank you. The next sound was a text being tapped out furiously on her phone. "Are you freezing me out financially?" The bubble appeared almost instantly on my screen. I was in the middle of a client call, reviewing procurement benchmarks for a Q4 report. I finished the sentence I was on, muted myself, and typed back, "No, you chose a separate path. I'm just honoring that. Read receipt confirmed." She didn't reply, because there was nothing to say. Her independence had been measured in hotel rooms and secret accounts, but now she was learning what real separation looked like. Not poetic, not Instagram quote worthy, just actual legal distance. 2 weeks earlier, I'd already filed the trust paperwork with my accountant, who also served as a fiduciary. The minute her behavioral patterns crossed the threshold, Marcus and I set. The accounts triggered conditional lockdowns. No need for confrontation, just documents, just math. The cards she used to treat herself with, tied to my income. The accounts she assumed would float her through a new chapter, filed under an LLC she never noticed I'd moved our finances into during her third business retreat. It wasn't revenge, it was clarity. The kind of clarity that comes from knowing someone might one day look at you and say, "I'm going to be a happy wife tonight." with another man. So I built the exit before she ever reached for the handle. Now she had her space, she had her freedom, and not a dollar more than it cost to get both. It started small, a glance too long in the locker room mirror, a missed hello, a shift in tone. Tuesday morning, she walked into the gym wearing the same lavender set she always wore when she wanted compliments. It used to get smiles. Now something had shifted. Two women by the water cooler turned just as she passed, one whispering behind her hand, the other smirking, eyebrows raised. She ignored them, kept walking, slid her phone into the treadmill holder like it was armor. 5 minutes into her warm-up, her trainer walked by, didn't wave, didn't smile, just logged something on his clipboard and veered toward the weight room without a word. Normally, he'd ask how Palm Springs was, not today. She finished her run, moved to the mats, bent into a stretch, and noticed someone standing by the mirror, arms crossed, tall, familiar. It took her a second. My cousin, Amelia. They'd spoken once a month, usually at family gatherings, cordial, surface level. Amelia always smiled politely, the kind of woman who says, "Bless your heart," with a look that could freeze water. Today, no smile, just a quiet look, pity, maybe, or judgment, or both. Amelia walked past without stopping, and that's when it clicked. She opened her phone. Notifications from 2 platforms had exploded overnight, strangers liking old photos, a few comments on a post she'd made about choosing yourself. It felt off. She clicked one of the usernames, private. No profile picture, but the bio. Freedom never smelled so good. Her chest tightened. By noon, Brent had blocked her. Phone, email, everything. A voicemail she'd left bounced back with a robotic, "This user's unavailable." She checked his wife's social media, private now, but the new bio? Just a single word, recalculating. Then the photo came, texted from an unknown number, local area code, just an image, her and Brent, outside the Fairmont Marina, standing a little too close, her hand on his chest, his head tilted down toward hers, smiling like they weren't being watched, except they were. The angle wasn't from a phone. It was elevated, clear, framed. Security camera footage, she zoomed in. In the background, just barely visible, a gray sedan parked at the edge of the valet circle, her husband's car. She stared at the photo, heart hammering. Her fingers were ice. A second text came through, no name, just a line. "You always did like the spotlight." She dropped the phone on the couch, ran a hand through her hair, looked around the room like someone might still be watching. For the first time, she realized this wasn't about Brent anymore. It wasn't even about cheating. It was about a man who'd already outplayed her. He hadn't shouted, hadn't thrown a fit. He'd just collected what mattered. And now, the world was watching her try to pretend she was still in control. But she wasn't, not of the story, not of the evidence, not even of the silence. It was a Wednesday, mid-morning. The co-working lounge had that low, hopeful hum, startups murmuring over espresso machines, someone pitching an app to an investor who barely looked up. She sat by the window trying to focus, opening a Canva template labeled New Chapter Coaching. She'd picked the colors herself, mint and rose gold, freedom shades. Then the courier walked in. He looked out of place in the sunlit open concept space. Gray uniform, clipboard in hand, box tucked under one arm. He glanced around, reading from the slip. "Delivery for..." He said her name out loud. A few heads turned. She stood, awkwardly raising a hand, trying to laugh it off like it was nothing. He walked over, asked her to sign. No return address. She scribbled her name, took the envelope from his hand. Thick, heavy, manila. She sat back down, resting it on the table like it might leak. Her coworker, Kendra, 2 desks over, glanced up. "Birthday gift?" She didn't answer. Her fingers were already sliding under the flap. First page, a letter from her husband's attorney, clean font, no emotion. Subject, notice of intent to finalize separation. Next came the documents, stapled, tabbed, color-coded. Financial summaries with bank statements she didn't know he had. Asset charts, marked previously joint, now allocated. Screenshots, text messages, her own, with timestamps and location data, photos. Brent's hand on her hip, her smile, her words beneath it. Best decision I ever made. Surveillance logs. Dated. Cataloged. Verified. The PI hadn't missed a single detail. Then came the last page. Non-contest option. 14 days. Sign and walk, or contest and trigger the clause that voids all spousal claims after documented misconduct. It was legal, it was surgical, and it was airtight, but that wasn't the part that broke her. Tucked behind the last tab, folded into a thin envelope, was a note from the leasing board of her apartment. Subject, lease cosigner update. Effective immediately, name redacted, has withdrawn as guarantor and removed their financial responsibility. Per agreement, proof of alternative income must be provided within 10 business days to avoid unit forfeiture. He had been her cosigner. The apartment she'd moved into 2 months ago, the one she described as her sanctuary, her restart, her proof of independence, had been quietly floating on his signature the whole time. Her breath hitched. She blinked fast, trying to clear the static building behind her eyes. Kendra looked over again. "Hey, you okay?" She opened her mouth to answer. Nothing came out. She tried again. Swallowed. "I just need some air," she managed. She stood too quickly, clutching the packet, leaving her laptop open. Out in the corridor, the walls felt too close, the windows too far. She gripped the railing of the stairwell, breathing through her nose, fighting the pressure rising in her chest, because it wasn't just a folder, it wasn't just a legal move. It was a man who had already left the room long before she realized he wasn't coming back. And now, she couldn't find the door. She hadn't planned the visit. No makeup, no appointment, just keys, a fraying sense of control, and an impulse that had grown claws overnight. It was just after noon when she pulled into the parking lot of his office building. Cloudless sky, the kind that usually made her feel powerful, sunroof open, playlist blaring, but today her hands trembled on the steering wheel. She didn't bring a speech, she just wanted to see him, talk, something human. Inside, the lobby was too quiet, marble floors, a security desk that used to nod her through without asking. Today, the guard looked up, expression blank. "Can I help you?" She tried to sound calm. "I'm here to see my husband. He works on 14. You've seen me before." He tapped something into the computer. His eyes didn't leave the screen. "What's your name?" She gave it, then waited. He paused. "I'm sorry, but I have instructions not to allow unannounced visits. All contact must go through legal channels." She stared at him, confusion giving way to heat. "Are you serious?" He gestured politely toward the chairs by the window. "You're welcome to wait, but he won't come down. That's been made clear." She didn't sit, didn't argue, just turned around and walked back out into the sharp sunlight. The car felt too hot when she climbed in. Her fingers fumbled at the air vents. The ignition clicked. Nothing. She tried again. Still nothing. It wasn't the engine. It was her hands shaking. She stared at her phone, thumb hovering. Then she called his brother. 3 rings, then voicemail. She tried again. Nothing. She tried his sister next. This time the call connected. A pause, then her voice, calm, steady, almost kind. "Hi." She exhaled, tried to hold her composure. "Please, I just need to talk to him. One conversation, 5 minutes. His sister didn't raise her voice, it didn't sound angry, just tired. "You got the freedom you asked for," she said softly. "He's choosing peace now. Let him." Click. Call ended. No drama, no cruelty. Just a door she hadn't realized was already shut. She dropped the phone into the passenger seat, pressed her palms against her eyes, the kind of pressure you use to block out the truth. Then it hit, all at once. She slammed both fists into the steering wheel over and over, a guttural sound escaping her throat, part sob, part scream, not words, just raw noise. Her head against the dashboard, a wail into her own silence. 20 minutes passed. No one came out, no calls, no texts, no attention. She finally looked up, face streaked with mascara and sweat, staring at her own reflection in the rearview mirror. No one had followed her. No one would. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even watching. He was Gone. And for the first time in this whole unraveling, she felt it, not guilt, not rage, just isolation so complete it felt like the air had left the world. It came through on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after the silence had become a rhythm, not a punishment. My attorney rang at 9:12 a.m., just as I was finishing coffee on the back patio. The air was cool, quiet, the kind of morning you don't take for granted once you've learned to live without noise. "She's requesting to meet," he said. "Wants to settle outside court, quietly." I didn't ask why. I already knew. The social bruises had set in. Brent was gone, reassigned out of state after his wife filed a complaint. The HR report had landed hard, especially with the messages we forwarded. Hers, time-stamped, bold, too bold. "Here's the offer," my lawyer continued. "No alimony. She keeps her car, personal items, nothing else." There was a pause. "She threatened to go to the press, said she'd spin it." I didn't sigh. I didn't smile. I just said, "Send Brent's complaint, with the screenshots attached." He didn't need clarification. An hour later, his email pinged with one line, "Accepted." The paperwork moved quickly after that. Her signature was clean. No annotations, no red lines, just a silent agreement that she had gambled, lost, and now wanted out without further exposure. I didn't attend the final notary meeting, let her sign it alone. My lawyer couriered the documents to my office. I initialed, sent them back, like signing for a package that was always meant to arrive. Then came the real end, a message from her, plain, simple. "I made a mistake. Can we talk?" I let it sit for a moment. Not because I needed to think, but because I wanted to feel nothing. And I did. I opened the photo album I'd kept on a private drive, labeled only proof, photos, logs, bank statements, voice memos, all of it. The story she'd tried to rewrite. I scrolled slowly, not with bitterness, not with regret, just to remind myself how much a man can endure when he's quiet, and how powerful that quiet becomes when it's complete. Then I deleted the album, gone, every trace, because I didn't need it anymore. Her past didn't belong to me. Her chaos didn't belong to me. Her pain, not mine to fix, not mine to carry. I opened the message, typed one reply. "You don't belong to me, but this peace, that's mine now." Then I turned off the phone and stepped into the afternoon air, the sound of wind and nothing else following me out.